Hello again everyone, Mary Rose here from Stitch Bliss Corner, and I'm all of agog. I've got some things to show you. I've got a fully finished, I'm going to be doing a new piece, and suffice it to say that when you're doing some reorganising, things come along that you're not expecting, and that's what's happened to me. So anyway, without further ado, I shall just cover a few things before I get on to my other things. I've got quite a little pile here of things. Now I'm just going to say what I forgot last time when I was sitting there and my brain went blank, and what I forgot to say was that I will not be calling my stitchy room a craft room. As far as I'm concerned, it's a studio. It's a studio where you create stitched pieces of art. I mean, I've got my paints in there as well, but I just don't think it's not a craft room as far as I'm concerned. And that's all there is to it. So I just thought I'd get that out there. Now the other thing was, I wanted to just say to Amber Marie in AZ, or AZ probably, because she lives in America, that I will be looking at the artist that she mentioned, and I'll be doing a little 10-minute thing about him fairly soon when I get myself organised, which will be soon. Also, I'd like to mention Melanie Smith, who very kindly mentioned me in regard to framing her latest piece on her video, and it's a beautiful piece that she's done, and the framing is lovely. So it's very nice to see that Melanie was able to use a suggestion of mine to do that. She probably would have twigged to the idea herself anyway eventually, but thank you very much Melanie, and thank you for your videos as well. Now, while I'm on the subject of framing tips, I think I'll cover this one now because I'll forget otherwise. If I'm going to get a frame, what I do is I take a template with me of the size of the piece that I'm going to frame. So in this case, that's the size of the piece. So I've just put it together like that. I mean, it doesn't matter as long as you've got the parameters. And then when you go into your shop looking for your frame, you can hold this right up against the frame and make sure that your piece will fit within that frame. And then I also take a photograph of the chart just to get an idea, or the silks, the cottons that you're going to be using, to get the colour scheme, so that you can pick a frame that's the colour that you want as well. So because it's very easy to go frame shopping and your mind is telling you the size of the piece, and thinking, oh yes, it should be about the right size. And the number of times I've brought one that's too small, I don't mind one that's too big, you can usually get around that, but it's maddening to get something that's a bit too small for the piece, because you don't want to cover up hours of stitching. That's for sure. Now, I'm going to also mention Ray at this stage, and I won't say her last name. And she has sent me something. It's sort of like, it's stitchy kindness, but it's a little bit naughty because, as you know, I don't really want anything from anyone. And it's lovely. It really is lovely to get something because I know that the person is so kind and sweet to do that, and I really, really do appreciate it. I just want people to know that, as I've said before, my gift is that people come and spend some time with me, and that's gift enough for me. This is a very thoughtful and sweet gift that she sent me. She's obviously watched a few of my videos to know the sort of thing that I would like. So I'm just going to get this out now and just show it to you. She sent me this beautiful card and lovely words inside. And then this Tudor Rose needle case, which is, as I said to her, it will go very nicely with my Tudor Rose scissor fob that I've had for many, many years. So, as you can see, it'll go beautifully with that, which is lovely. So thank you very much, Ray. And she also sent me a couple of needle minders. And I'm going to use these for brooches, actually, because, well, not actually, see, I'll get it out of the packet here. Because I've got two needle minders that beautiful Cindy from Cindy's Cross Stitch. Lovely, beautiful person, inside and out. And I mentioned jokingly that I didn't have any needle minders. And I think I said at the time that I didn't really want any needle minders. And she sent me a couple, and I use them all the time to hold my chart on my metal board. So I think of Cindy every single day because, you know, I'm stitching every single day. So here they are. Oh, I'll just hold them like this so you can see them. And again, she knows me so well. Butterfly. And there's the butterfly on the other side. And then, and see, they're understated as well, which is lovely. And that little one there. So, excuse me. Thank you so much, Ray. That was lovely of you. And I shall treasure these. And my little needle case. Lovely. Okay, so now we shall go on. I'm just going to mention Michelle Bendy Stitchy because she mentioned about this last time I did a video. I mentioned that I put this together for someone who was a gardener but was also a musician. For heights and depths no words can reach, music is the soul's own speech. And Michelle, I just thought I would show you. Oh, that was the stitching, the chart that it came from. Garden Sampler from Anchor. I came across the original one that I put together. That is when you're cleaning up, you find all sorts of things. I was quite surprised to find that I still had it. Right, now then. Also, I mentioned to someone who made a comment, I mentioned about a cat on a cushion that I made into a cushion, because I don't do little smalls at all. But this one, well, it isn't a small, obviously, but what I mean is I don't make little cushions or anything like that. But I did make him, and he was one of the first cross stitches I ever did. And my husband just loves him. His ears look a bit small, but he might be one of those breeds that have the small ears. And see, not even, the crosses aren't even all going the same way either. And I think I've missed a few there. But you know, it still looks all right in the distance, and the tassels. Yeah. So there that is. So I said I would show that. So there we are. Now then, what will I show you first? I'm going to show you my finish on Lavender Fields. I'll do that soon, but I just want to show you the stitching piece that I'm going to be doing. Now, this particular picture came into my head. It comes into my head every now and again. And then I think, oh, you know, don't think about it and it'll go away. But it hasn't gone away. So it's going to be stitched, I've decided. So I'll show you the picture. I'll show you the painting first. He's called the Skating Minister. And isn't he just divine? Now, I'll just read you a little bit about him, only a very small amount. Just on a piece of paper this size. The Skating Minister by Henry Raeburn. In the 1790s he was painted. He's an oil painting in the National Gallery of Scotland. The Reverend Robert Walker Skating on Duddingston Loch. Pretty well unknown until 1949, it has become one of Scotland's best known paintings. And this is what they say about it. This serene skater is thought to be the Reverend Robert Walker, minister of the Canongate Kirk, and a kirk in Scotland is a church, and a member of the Edinburgh Figure Skating Society. The club, the oldest of its kind in Britain, usually met on the frozen lochs, that's lake, loch is the Scottish word for lake, of Duddingston, or Loch End on the outskirts of Edinburgh. Walker's pose as he glides across the ice looks effortless, but would have been recognised by fellow skaters as a difficult and sophisticated manoeuvre. Now, I will have a link below to someone who replicated his skating on the ice in Sweden. So I'll put that link below so you can have a look. And then it just says, Scottish physician and writer John Brown wrote that Henry Raeburn never fails in giving a likeness at once vivid, unmistakable and pleasing. He paints truth, and he paints it with love. He painted directly from life and made no preliminary sketches. The first figure skating club in the world. Yes, he's a member of that. And there was a bit of conjecture about whether a French painter painted this piece or Raeburn, but they've pretty much excluded the French painter because they did say that it wasn't Raeburn's style of painting, and it didn't seem like he would do that. But I do have a picture here, or, you know, a bit of information. There he is, that's Mr. Raeburn. And then there's some of his works here. Look at those boys there. You can look at these, of course. Look at the, oh, it's just stunning. The work, it's a bit like Gainsborough. And there's a Scottish piper or soldier anyway. And there's the man himself. Oh no, it isn't. I beg your pardon. This is Walter Scott. Sir Walter Scott, poet and writer. I think that looks very much like the sort of work that the skater is. That's his grave or tombstone. I think Oh yes, and there he is. I think I've shown him already. Okay, he looks quite thoughtful and pensive. And they do say that he actually knew this skater. And he's put a little bit of a hint of a smile there on that face. Now, thanks to Harlequin's wizardry, he has put the chart together for me. And this is the chart that Harlequin's put together for me using the computer program. Now, as you can see, it's very close to the original oil painting, and he's even got the little part of the skate there. Oh. Sorry about that. That's my phone. It's a magpie. Excuse me just one. Oh, that's okay. That's fine. Sorry about that. Anyway, they're around here all the time, the magpies. So I'm very happy with the detail on his coat and everything. It's almost like a bird's wing, isn't it? But it's, for some reason, this has captivated me. So, yes, he's put the chart together, and I'm going to be doing it on, not this piece because it's not big enough. This is 28 count, and we've sent off for the material, but I'm going to be doing it 1/1 on 28 count. So as you can imagine, this is going to be a labour of love, and it's going to take quite a while. So Harlequin did suggest to me, and I think he's probably right, that I should do the face first to make sure that it's all going to be, it'll come together okay. I think it will, but there's an awful lot of background. And I have no problem with backgrounds. I enjoy doing them. But you wouldn't want to do all that background and find that the face is not working very well. Because usually I like to leave the face till last. But in this case, I think I'll do it first. So there are, that's how many, 40 pages, I think he said. And he's already, I don't know how many colours, I think excuse me a moment, truly. I think, how many pages is it? "42. And they're not complete pages, some of them, they're just the edges. And then he's done me one on a smaller scale so I can glue it all together and have a good look at it before I get started. Or stick it all together, you know what I mean. And he's also checked our stocks of threads and found that I only need 4. And some of those might be already on other projects anyway, some of those colours, I don't know. So he's very thorough. So thank you very much to my husband for doing that. And I shall just show you the size that he will be. That will be his size once he's done. Now I did, I don't know where it is now. Harlequin did do a smaller size for me, but the smaller it gets, the less detail there is. Just hang on a tick. I'll just have a look and see. Because he did some other ones for me. I'm just looking to see if the smaller one is there. Just to show you the difference. No, I think this was all when he was just checking the contrasts and everything. Anyway, next time, if I remember, I will get the I'll get the other one just to show you. It'd be nice if I could finish a sentence without pausing as well. Okay, now to get on to my lavender fields framing. And I had some very good suggestions in my comments about what I should do. You know, someone said I should embrace the narrowness of the piece. And I did think of that, but for some reason it just narked me how narrow it is. And I was thinking of trying to do a frame that looked a bit like a castle window. You know how they had the little slits for the arrows when they used to be under siege. They'd have those very narrow windows that they could just get an arrow through, but it wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't be hit by an arrow coming the other way. And I thought, no, that just emphasises the narrowness all the more, so why would you do that? And Ingeborg was suggesting a coarse sort of mat, you know, which I thought was a good idea. And I did have it actually on a piece of paper. I'll just show you here. I was thinking of something along those lines where you'd have the lavender field. I'll show you the picture in a minute. The lavender field, and then you'd have sort of that kind of effect, and maybe a bit of lace or something. And then I was thinking, well, this is getting to be ridiculous, you know. So I went back to the drawing board, basically, because I thought by the time I'm finished, you know, the actual stitching will be an afterthought, you know, with all this stuff that I'm thinking of shoving on there. So I basically decided to go with what I always think is the best, and that's the simple way of doing things. So then I started playing around with my paints, and I decided on this. Now, I just think, I know it wouldn't be everybody's taste, and I understand that, but from my point of view, excuse me, Flosstube throat. From my point of view, it satisfies me. I get a feeling of space, and which is what I wanted. I wanted to be able to look at it and imagine those hills, imagine the endless fields and the fields of lavender. And also I wanted a close-up of the lavender, which I've put here. I didn't want to detail it up too much, because I thought if I do that it's going to take away from the stitching, and the stitching must be king of the piece. I mean, I think if you festoon your frame too much, it's not too much. I mean, a lot of the festooning does actually what's the word? Highlights the stitching. You know, it can happen, but you have to be so... Oh, you have to be... I think it's wise to be... You know, when you've spent hours stitching something, you don't want the actual framing to overcome or overpower the stitching that you've done. And that's what I was trying to do here. And I must say, it was lovely to get the paints out again. I haven't had them out for so very long. And that's all thanks to my not decluttering, because I don't think I can declutter. I don't think it's in my DNA to declutter. Excuse me, but moving it all around, let's say, that's helped me to put my creative hat on again and put something together. And I just love this piece. I think it puts me in that house, basically, or at least looking down from a hillside to that house. So anyway, there's my fully finished lavender fields. And thank you to everybody that gave me suggestions, because, my goodness, they were some wonderful ones. And I really did appreciate input like that. But anyway, so there's that one finished, which is lovely, and I'm so happy that it's finished. Now then, speaking of finishes, oh, now where have I put that? Oh yes, hang on a minute. I'll just put that one. I've got just a few more things to show you. Now, here, this is a book about Australia, actually, A Time to Remember, Peter Luck. That's in there. And it's just got scenes and things from Australia and parts of history and all that sort of thing. But there's a picture in here that I thought summed up a house in the outback. And there it is there in the distance. And you can see how dry it can be. But there's a kind of a serenity about it as well. Harsh but serene. And I'm just going to read you a poem. It's not the whole poem because it's quite a long one. It's just a stanza by Dorothea McKellar, because it's about this stitch piece that I've finished now. I am thinking of putting a little poppy somewhere, but I thought, well, no, I probably won't, because this would be the last image that a lot of the soldiers had when they headed off to war, and Remembrance is coming up in November. There was a march here in Australia called the Cooee March, and they headed off from a little town to recruit men for the war. This was the First World War. And they went from, little town to little town, and the numbers grew and grew until they got to Sydney and they all enlisted. And you sort of think, this humble little home, all those men that never came home. And I did make some changes here. The doorway, just there, I just put a little bit extra on the doorway. I'll just show you it hasn't really got that little line in there. And of course I used couching to the max on it. So that's that one anyway. And the beautiful wattle, Australia's national flower. Yeah. So here's the poem, or part of it. Now, Dorothea McKellar was in London and she got homesick. And the first stanza is about the country lanes and the pastoral beauty of England, basically. But the second one is just something from her heart. And she says, I love a sunburnt country, a land of sweeping plains, of ragged mountain ranges, of droughts and flooding rains. I love her far horizons, I love her jewel sea, her beauty and her terror, the wide brown land for me. And that was published in London Spectator magazine in 1908. And she was 19 at the time. And I can remember in high school that was a poem that we all studied. I don't know if they do it these days. They don't seem to, do a lot of the things that make you proud of your country these days. It all has to go the other way. Anyway, so Now the final one that I have is the X's and O's, the trees and me. And that's the one that I'm going to put about the poem by Robert Louis Stevenson on. I'm going to just put that little piece that just said, "How do you like to go up in a swing, up in the air so blue? Oh, I do think it the pleasantest thing ever a child can do." So I'm going to put that in this area here. And I was sort of not looking forward to doing this because I thought the gridding would be a nightmare. And I felt it really did need it because, you know, you've got to fit things on properly. But what I did, instead of doing my full gridding that I always do, instead of that, because it's not a full coverage piece, I just did my counting down the side here for a limited number. So what have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 lots of 10 stitches, because that was this top bit here. That's where I've done the 5 lots of 10 to give me bearings. And then once I did that, I just came across a bit and started doing the scaffolding, which is that. You can see there, there's scaffold. And I'm just scaffolding as I go across. So that's how I'm doing that. And I'm absolutely loving it. I'm really enjoying doing it. It's such a whimsical piece, isn't it? And the colours, it's as though the person who designed this wanted those muted colours almost to take you back to your childhood. You know, it's almost like looking through the mist of time to when you were a child. That's how I felt about it anyway. So, yes. So that's that one. And I think I have come to an end now. Was there anything else? Just looking to see. I had some notes there about that swing piece. So hang on a sec, I'll just have a quick look. Yes, I think that's covered everything. So I took a bit of time out. I'm still behind on my schedule. I was hoping to have everything done by Friday, and today is Thursday. But I thought, well, let's just do a Flosstube video and never mind, because it will come together, and it is coming together. So I just want to say happy stitching to everybody. If you get a sudden urge to start something, why not, I guess, as long as you don't let it get too out of control. Because see, while I've been doing this reorganising, I have managed to get quite a few pieces done that I thought I'd never get to. The only thing is there are 3 pieces in particular I want to get back to. And I think with this skating minister piece, that's going to be something that I'm going to just thoroughly enjoy. I'm going to take as much time as I like with him. I'm just going to put aside so many hours to just sit and just enjoy that single thread going over that single stitch area. Just the joy of it coming through and going back through, and coming through and going back through. The evenness and the neatness of it. And the sharpness of the image that will come as a result. As I say, next time I will find those charts that had less detail. You could have done them more quickly, but it just wouldn't have been the same. And I just wanted to try and get that expression on that rosy face, because I should imagine a minister in those days they didn't have a lot of. Well, it would be very hard to let your hair down, I think, if you were a minister. But to get on that ice and go skating along and to feel so free, he must have felt so free doing that, to the constraints of his life in the 1700s. You know, to be that pillar of the community and to be always so stoic and everything, you know. And then to put those skates on and just start gliding along. I mean, it just must have been like heaven to him. So, anyway, sorry. All right. So, I'm going now. See you next time. Thank you for your company and all the best from Stitch Bliss Corner. Bye for now from Mary Rose.